Today, I'm joined by Anastasia Chihai, Senior Director of Sales Development at Upland. She believes motivation in sales is not just about chasing short-term wins. It's about creating a system that drives both business performance and retention. But why doesn't relying solely on traditional comp plans work anymore? Here's the thing. Balancing long-term incentives with short-term rewards is a secret to sustainable success. In this episode, we'll break down our strategies for structuring sales motivation and drive business results. By the end, you will know how to design a comp plan that aligns with your CRO's goals, secures buy-in, and delivers results, including Anastasia point-based system. Welcome back to the Outbound Kitchen podcast. I'm Eric, the Outbound chef, and this is your go-to resource for scaling outbound. Let's get cooking. But today we're going to talk about the point system you've put in place. But before we show it to everyone joining, why did you revamp your comp plan?
So a little bit of a context around my business and the comp plan that we have in the past. So I'm leading 5 different business units, every single business unit having a different products, so a suite of products with a different deal velocity and a different closing time. So we needed to make sure that we're adjusting this comp plan to make sure that it's beneficial for everyone and driving the same outcome. There are still 2 reasons why I felt the need to make a change in our compensation plans. The first one was our close won rate from the outbound generator opportunity. This is the second year when the business has an outbound engine. So we're still kind of like learning what is the right way to build pipeline and not only building pipeline or pipeline that is closing. And what changes do we need to make, or what adjustments do we need to the comp plan or to the qualification criteria to ensure that we're having the best return on investment on the efforts on the outbound side. So the first reason was, how can I find a way to increase our conversion rate or close win rate from outbound pipeline generated? Second reason was that the main KPIs in terms of compensation for as the organization were a meeting book rate and held, and number of opportunities created for the product. Now, what we realized is that we kind of like moving into 2 different directions. We're asking the reps to book the meetings, but also book quality meetings. For the rest of the organization, for leaders, as well as for the marketing department overall, we only care about opportunities created for every single product and the pipeline generated for that. So we're realizing we're kind of giving 2 different goals, and they not necessarily align with the business goals as well. So we wanted to remove the part of meeting held as a part of a compensation model, keep it more simple, and only focus on SQL or opportunities created within the product. That is the 2 reasons why we felt like, okay, we need to make a change and we need to figure out how can we make it simpler, easier to comprehend, but also benefit and being aligned with what the business goals are.
You said 5 business units. What do you mean by that? Do you have like specific products or?
Absolutely. So it's
Yeah.
5 different teams. Every single team have a suite of products. So I have teams that have maybe 4 different products that they're selling. Other teams are maybe like 2 or 3. So it's very diverse and very complex, which made my life hard when I tried to go to the design board and figure out like what is the right process for compensation plans, given the fact that I have products that their deal velocity is, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks, and other products that deal velocity is 12 to 18 months. So creating a blanket approach is maybe not the right decision or the right idea.
Well, that sounds like it's complex to also design your comp plan.
Complex and fun for sure.
Yeah, and it's just for context because I know comp plan also it's really focused on the context of the company, because I know companies that use different comp plan, but so you said like you have different sales cycle lengths. So it sounds like you have like a mid-market motion, but also an enterprise motion at the same time.
Yeah, so an SMB, a mid-market, and an enterprise plan, I have them all.
Okay.
But based on the product, yeah.
Based on support. Okay. And before we go deeper on your comp plan, so did you adapt for each segment, or is it like do you have like the comp plan for the 3 segments?
We did not. I tried to make and come up with a design that would be beneficial, would drive the same outcome regardless of the business unit. Compared to, let's say, a more traditional sales development organization, when you're going to have an SMB motion for the same product and mid-market and enterprise for the same product, in my scenarios, it's different products overall, and there might be an SMB motion for the same product and an enterprise motion for the same product, but it's for this driven by the same SDRs. So I wanted to remove the complexity away and make sure that the models are fair towards the entire team.
Okay.
So it's not that if you are on the one product that is having a shorter deal cycle, you're in benefit compared to the ones that are maybe like on an enterprise motion and supporting the product that have a sales cycle of 12 to 18 months. So I removed that part away and only wanted to focus on what is the final outcome that we're trying to achieve and how can I measure that and do that in order to have a best impact on the ARR for the business as well.
Okay. To talk about your comp plan now, do you want to talk? Do you want to start with the design, or do you want to? I can share my screen and we can go. We can walk through the people who are here on what you build. What do you prefer?
Either way, we can go
Yeah.
probably through for the design, or let's go straight away and figure out like what exactly did we do, what's a change.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, and so what you told me, it's you built a point system. So curious to learn more about that now.
Yes, awesome. So, a couple of ideas of that we had in order. How do we increase our conversion rate or win rate from pipeline opportunities? We looked at, hey, where are the stoppers or the blockers we have right now? And what we realized is the reason why we're losing deals are the opportunities are going dark. Maybe we're speaking to somebody who's 2 levels below the line or even just on the line and doesn't allow us to build enough momentum and energy in the business to then convert them into close one. Maybe they don't have the budget, and usually what we understand or what we know is a manager or even sometimes a director at a company like Upland, for example, wouldn't necessarily have enough buying power to push or make a final decision. So we wanted to actually address that and change the behavior to encourage and motivate the reps to go as high as possible in the account, meaning a C-level, a VP, or a director. We also have a lot of opportunities with managers that we're seeing that they're getting darker faster, where more often than maybe a C-level or a VP level opportunity. Another reason or another element of the new compensation models is actually the target account. We want as a business to focus in the target accounts where we know that that's where the whales opportunities are, that's the 6-figure deal opportunities, and we want to actually drive more attention to those and compensate accordingly. For me, for the business, it's more important that we break into those target accounts than, for example, getting a meeting with a manager at any other account that is in our book of business. So I designed the comp plan to reflect and to drive the behavior that ultimately would benefit the pipeline creation, where we're creating it, and what is our propensity to close the business with those accounts. So what basically we changed, we took away completely the SAL element in our world is SAL accepted meeting or a meeting held, really in simple terms, and only wanted to focus on quota attainment, and created the quota based on how many opportunities do we actually need to create per rep, multiply on the higher tier. Meaning, let's say if you have as an SDR for one of our products, Covidian, for example, you have a quota of 4, your quota actually is 40 points. So you're gonna get the highest seniority of a title, which is the C-level VP or director. So you, as an SDR, can actually hit your goals in multiple ways. You can go ahead and potentially create 4 opportunities with VPs, or 3 opportunities with VPs and 2 opportunities with the managers, or maybe 2 opportunities with 1 opportunity with the CXO, 1 with the director, and 4 with the manager. So there's multiple way how you can get to your number with the intention or understanding, hey, like you would rather focus on potential target accounts, because if you do, then you only need 2 opportunities and 2 opportunities with target accounts and maybe one with a director, and you hit your number. So it's less effort, but more targeted, more focused, or more effort. I don't want to say a spray and pray because it's not really a spray and pray approach, but it's going lower into the roles and seniority of the prospects. That's really kind of like the idea around it. What exactly is this model supposed to drive or change is the behavior of an SDR to be more aligned with the business goals, which ultimately is close one revenue from outbound pipeline.
What's the definition of SQL at Upland? Because I'm asking you that because at some companies they use Burn, for example. At some companies they don't use Burn.
So I heard actually multiple ways of defining an opportunity: sales accepted lead, sales qualified lead, sales
Yeah.
qualified lead. So in our case, a sale is sales accepted lead, which is basically a meeting held, and sales qualified lead is a qualified opportunity, really.
Okay, but do you use like Burnt, for example, for qualifying the opportunity, or do you use like a Medic or
Our
something else?
qualification way is slightly different. So we actually
Yeah.
use band without the B, basically without the qualification or the budget. Our assumption is that if you're going into the right account and you're speaking to a CXO or a VP, they have enough power to go and create that budget should they need to. I've been personally into a position last year when I bought a tool without having the budget, but I was at the right level to go and influence the person with the budget and create that budget because that business case was strong. So in an outbound format, I honestly don't believe that anyone is sitting around with a budget, waiting for the right opportunity to spend it on. Everything is accounted for as long as you're creating the right pain and pulling the right layers. You probably will create the budget. So in our case, we're qualifying for authority, need,
Yeah.
and timing. So authority is kind of like matching exactly what we have here,
Yep.
and then need, ensuring that we have a need, and then timing, ensuring that we either can close them in the regular sales cycle for that particular product, or the company's not in a contract with another competitor longer than 6 months.
Got you. Well, I think it's fair for your team because if you remove the budget piece of it, it's fair because it's outbound, and like you said, maybe most of the time they don't. It's not like oh yes, I have budget for it, but they will find budget for if it's like a real pain. So.
And another thing, I think for an outbound opportunity, it's really hard to qualify for the budget from the perspective that, hey, you're calling somebody out of the blue and aiming to show them another way how to do things, a better way to do things.
Yeah.
So before talking or even earning the chance to talk about budget, you probably should validate and show them a better way to do things for them to even want to continue the conversation. So I think for outbound opportunities is way too early to talk about budget in the qualification call.
Yep, I'm relying on this. So, actually, earlier I was asking you about SMB versus enterprise, but here it sounds like you adapt also the quota of points based on the segment. So, could you just share like what's the quota for a rep focused on the SMB segment versus enterprise? You were talking about 40 points earlier, for example.
So basically, every single product would have a different quota based on conversion rates, how much pipeline do we need to build for that particular product. So it's not really based on the segment.
It's based on
the segment and what industry we gear towards would have an impact, but not really in a traditional manner as normal businesses do with SMB, mid-market, and enterprise. But this definitely accounts. Like, for example, for my enterprise solutions are more on the lower side of a quota. So right now they have a quota of 3 opportunities qualified per month. My more SMB or more transactional PC or products have close to double, 5 opportunities, 4 opportunities created.
Okay. And last question about your complaint here. What do you mean by each product line should have title associated with 10 points and 5 points?
So we also wanted to make sure that everyone has a clarity on what exactly is a title that is worth 10 points. Especially I mentioned that I think just before we went live, I have a couple of products that are having different titles because of the industry. So for example, we're selling into nonprofit space. They have slightly different titles than a normal need.
Okay.
They don't have a CXO all the time. So for example, a director of fundraising could be acting like a CXO in a normal company. Or in more traditional companies. So we basically have a list of titles mapped out for every single scoring point. So for example, for 10 points for Mobile Commons, you have this titles that qualify for this. For managers level or like mid level, you have this titles that qualify for 5 points. So in this way, everyone has a clarity what exactly should they be driven by their product line for everyone, for my SDRs, for my leaders, for my commissions, for sales leader. Everyone has a clear idea what exactly are we driving from each level of the seniority.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because, like you were mentioning about the level, the title. For example, in Latam, Mexico, or other countries, for example, they don't use CXO at some companies, so they use the director will be the highest level at the company, and so that's, I think, a good clarification. We have a question from Gerard. He's asking about comping outbound reps per meeting heads plus a percentage of close-won revenue for enterprise. I know here we are talking about actually SQLs, but did you add like a percentage or a bonus on revenue close?
If you can afford doing that as a business, that would be a great idea. And I'm a big supporter of having actually a percentage of close-won revenue attributed to that pipeline. That will be fantastic. The challenge that I have in my business is that, again, we're having almost like 10 different products that my outbound team is supporting, meaning that somebody who's supporting a product that is more SMB or very transactional would benefit a lot on those close-won opportunities. Somebody who's supporting a product that is more geared to enterprise, that maybe has an opportunity closing in 16 months, they would not really benefit of that bonus, basically. So in this way, we try to remove any type of elements added to the compensation plan that could be unfair to the reps based on the product they're supporting. But ideally, if you can, Jared, I would recommend to have a bonus or a percentage of close-won revenue tied to the compensation in the matter of a bonus, not really as an OTE, but as an element added. I've seen this model working very, very well, especially if your deal cycle is somewhere between 3 to 6 months. That's perfect.
Yeah. I know you have like a complex situation, so that's maybe where
Everyone from this example,
yeah.
from this case.
Actually, further, I just want to add like something else on top of it. Right now, I was talking with like a few SDR leaders like in the past weeks about enterprise specifically. Most of the time, they don't include this bonus in the OT. What they do, it's a bonus because it's sometimes it's too long after they book the meeting or they create the opportunity. Sometimes they have 6 months in the deal velocity. Sometimes it's 12 months. Sometimes it's 18 months. So to incentivize people to obviously if I focus on their own, they add like this on as a bonus. And so it's not part of the OT. And so at least they have more control because they basically what they told me is they focus their comp plan on what they can control, and most of the time on in the enterprise segment they can't control.
Exactly. I'm 100% supporting that idea, ensuring that you have compensation plan that is directly in control of the people you are paying of your SDRs. Ideally, you would want to have some sort of bonuses that are tied to their quality of their work, which usually is translating into closed revenue, but as an OTE, focus on just what's in their control.
Nice. Okay, so let's keep going. So I had questions, but you already a lot. If I had question about your comp plan, that the aspect of quality and quantity, because I think sometimes on comp plan we have the aspect of quantity. Sorry, it's focused on how many meetings they are booking per month. But here also you added like a layer of quality, so based on the title of the person. So I think you have both here. You have quantity and quality. So it's not like more quality or more quantity, so it's both.
I think the compensation model should vary depending on where the business is and what they're trying to achieve. There are businesses in the early stage of startup that they just want to have as many as bot as possible. And for them is the priority is and probably should be on, can we generate as much pipeline as possible? So we validate either what's our ICP, where do we need to focus on, or what have you. And if you don't have enough at bats and you just focus, let's say, in just quality purely for an early stage startup, maybe it's not the best idea. For a business like where I am, where it's a public company, we've been in the space for, I don't know, 21 years, I think, or something like that. The priority is we know we had enough at bats at this point. We just want to have high quality within our ICB that we know that we can win. So in my case, the priority is on the quality. I would rather take fewer opportunities but higher quality with accounts that can be in the six-figure deal. But again, like depending on who has the question, I think it's very important to understand what is the business goal that you're trying to achieve, and how can you align your compensation plan in line with what the goals are.
Yeah.
I think this is the
Actually,
best point. What am I trying to do? In my case, what I'm trying to do is close more outbound pipeline. But for every single leader should be differently. What exactly is the ultimate goal for me and for the business?
and for you specifically, actually, how big is your team? How many?
About 35, a team of 35 people. That's including the 4 managers that we have and myself. So about 30 reps right now.
30 reps. Okay. And if we talk about also, because today what you show is your new comp plan for 2025, but did you keep some elements from your old plan? Or did you revamp completely your comp plan?
The only thing that we kept is the SQL or opportunity creating element, which I still feel like it should be the core of your compensation plan. The rest, so like we reduced the SAL or meeting booked compensation. We added this new element, which is the point system. So that is thing is the only thing that stayed. The focus on opportunity creation for outbound.
Got you. Now let's talk about how you talk about this with your CRO. Because I think having a complaint in mind is great. Now also it's getting approval from obviously your CRO, but also the finance team. So how did you, what was your process with your CRO? And I'm curious
I
about.
will be honest, this probably was the hardest part. Ideation and process design is pretty easy. You know what you're trying to achieve, you know, the goal. You're going and have ideas of how to make it happen. When having or going through the approval stages, which usually is your boss, which in my case is VP of Demand Gen, then the CRO, who we're both reporting to, and then the operational side of the business. The way I was thinking in getting their approval is, what is my CRO caring about? And he cares for close one revenue, especially for the outbound. He doesn't really care how much pipeline I'm creating as long as it's not converting. And second, what is the cost for the business? Ultimately, everyone in the C level still cares a lot about the cost of a change, positive or negative. So there was two topics that I ensured that I have data on, and I was able to explain in detail. So I had an assumption. I looked at them close one rate for outbound, as well as what are the reasons we're losing business, and understand how many of those opportunities were with a BTL title, so manager, kind of like in the manager space. And I made an assumption based on number of opportunities. What is the app level uplift we're going to see in close one revenue? So we had a specific goal that we were trying to achieve with this change. Second was, what is the impact on the business? And ideally, when we're speaking to a CRO and the operational side of the business, you want to see or show a saving number that will come from the delta. So in my case, I did take a full quarter of performance. So the Q3 was my data point where I leveraged. I looked at that. Hey, how did we perform and how much cost did we have afferent to compensation? And then in the new model, how much that would be costing the business, and then present that delta as something that would still stay in the business pocket, or what could be distributed towards different goals and initiatives for 2025, which we have a few. So these were two things that that my CRO cared for. And then the other thing, the other hurdle that I had is actually speaking to our VP of operations, so the operation and accounting side of the business. What do they care for, especially being a public company, is hey, can we ensure that this system cannot be gamed? Do we have the rigor
Yeah.
in place to ensure that nobody can game the system, nobody can get themselves or flipping, the scoring system in their advantage? So what is the rigor and what has been put in place? So do we have the right fields in Salesforce? Can we track this super easy? Can we trust this information? And then second, again, would be relevant to the costs. We want to make sure that this model doesn't cost the business more than it costed in 2025, and the reason why we're making that change. So I think every leader should have enough data or a data based on, hey, this is the real data that I used, not just assumption. This is a couple of assumptions based on my experience and what I know in the space. This is what we're predicting. So ensuring that you have this data. The other thing that I've done, and that was a shout out to my CRO who actually gave me that hint, was ensuring that you're creating a one pager that you can share in advance, focus on what is the scope of this change, what exactly you're trying to achieve, what is the cost, what is the risk associated with this change. Again, in my scenarios, speaking to operation, you would want to ensure that you have all your ducks in a row, and is a pretty bulletproof system.
Okay, so question about the you are talking about the delta, about comparing for you are using Q3 as your data point. So when you make some assumption with your new comp plan, and I don't need to know the details about the delta, what was the difference, but on the results of revenue, maybe you can share the percentage, but did you see like a big change in terms of this new comp plan versus the previous one?
Yes, I've seen a little bit of a change, positive change for the business. And again, speaking to C-level, you would want to make sure that this is not costing the business more. Where we're making the adjustments was actually in the accelerators. So in my business right now, we're paying everyone every opportunity that is over quota at 1.5. When we want to actually move away from that and having a gradual system where you actually have tiers, like if you perform within this and this is your compensation plan. If you're going from this to this is what your accelerator looks like. And if you're overperforming like crazy, let's say 170% plus, you're unlocking the highest tier of compensation. The goal with that is that you're motivating your reps to perform as much as they can, basically. Go in the 200s, basically, because that's where the biggest juice is. So that's why we added the tiering system to our accelerating model.
So actually, I know we didn't talk about accelerators earlier, but do you still have the accelerator on top of that, the point system?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You still have to have a way to motivate your reps to go above and beyond their
Yeah.
quota.
Okay, that's interesting. And also, you were talking about gaming the system. So what did you do to avoid that? Actually,
Honestly, I don't think that any employer would be interested in gaming the system. We all here to learn
yeah.
and develop skills and ultimately become an AE. So every single thing that they should be doing day in and day out should be set them up for success long term. It's definitely like not the first thing I had in mind. I do trust my team to do the right things. However, for our VP of operations, he's trusting us as well, but he needs to have the rigor and ensure that everything is done properly and correctly. So in our case, we actually implemented two different fields in Salesforce. One was a job title, a title, job level, and then a scoring system. The job level is automatically decided through the automation for the lean data. So basically, you input the job title on the contact level contact level. That is through the next field, which is job level, and you have just the level. So basically CXO, VP, director, manager, IC, and so on and so forth, every single of those having a scoring system. So then on the opportunity level, we added the scoring system for the opportunity. And ultimately, at the end of the month, it's supposed to just add a total number of scores for all the opportunity and as they are created. And
And
The
Okay,
key
got it. So,
that is locking those fields to ensure that nobody really related to the compensation plans can change that, but you have a MOPS or RevOps person to have the keys in case if you do need to adjust something. And I would recommend to have that. Um, you cannot rely all the time on just the data and systems. So you would want to make sure that you have a process that allows for flexibility should you need have one.
and last question about the complaint. So you are talking about the cost also. When you did the model of Q3 with your previous comp plan and the new one, did you see any change on the cost, or what was the
The
cost
cost
aspect of it?
was negative, so I guess it was a
Okay,
positive for the business.
nice. Okay. Well, I imagine for the finance team that was better.
Yeah, but that definitely was a plus or an advantage in the change.
Okay, so today we mentioned that we are talking about comp plan, and that's more for the long-term side of the business and for the Outbound team. But also now we are going to talk about more the short-term, and we're going to talk about Spiff. Before we share everything you do with Spiff, are you running like a specific Spiff for the holiday season this year?
A little bit.
A
Every
little
single
bit?
month
Okay.
we have a different month-long spiff. Something that I do not quite often actually, sometimes. So for example, for Thanksgiving Day, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we did have a short day, a Wednesday day, basically meaning that, hey, we're only as strong as our weakest link. Meaning that we're finishing our day Wednesday when the last rep hits their KPI for the day. And that get the team going so fast. Like we just wrapped up the call and everyone was like, okay, let's get dialing. The engagement on our Teams channel was insane. Everyone was like, all right, who's left? How can I help? The energy was really, really good. And I think that short-term spiffs can really, really make an impact. And we're probably gonna do a similar one for December. However, every single month we have a different goals and a different outcomes that we're trying to achieve, and we'll shift and play around and gamify differently, not based on the season and the holiday season, mostly on, hey, what do we need to achieve this month, and how can we make it interesting, engaging, fun for the entire team.
And you said maybe you're going to do something in December, but what do you have in mind for December?
So for December, actually, I do have a slide that I want to walk
Oh yeah,
through
okay.
on
I can
Spiff,
share mine.
and I can share the one we had in November, one we have in December for short-term Spiffs.
Okay, give me one sec. So the that's the one with the bingo card?
Bingo card, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let me. Okay.
There you go. So what we did in November that was really, really fun was a bingo card. Trying to get a combination of KPIs, challenges, outcomes in one place. So basically, obviously, you know how a bingo card works. Ideally, you want to black it out completely, or complete a row, or yeah, a row basically, or a column. So that was really, really fun, and got the team really, really engaged and helping them to drive outcomes, but also focus on something fun, like for example, say turkey on the phone, and that was for November. So that was really, really handy for that week prior to Thanksgiving. So that was really, really good idea. Now for December, we have even a more fun one. As you can see in the picture, we actually have some picture, I guess, of every single rep in a form of a sticker, if you will. So everyone is personalized with a title and a hashtag that is relevant to them. And then basically the spiff for December also is a combination of different ways to earn points. So it could be related to KPIs or activities. So for example, have a conversation that is 3 minutes long, have 30 minutes talk time in a one day, have 2 hours dial time in one day. So basically every single action that you make earns you points, but you also have we have a penalizing system as well. Let's say if you didn't hit your KPIs, you're getting -1 point. So it's almost like a reach to the top system where once you're hitting, or if you are at the top of leaderboard at the end of the month, you're eligible for a $200 gift card, or if you're second point, $100 gift card. But it's almost like a race to the top, which is really, really fun. And what makes it, I think, more engaging is the element that we have it printed out, where everyone has a sticker. It's easy to visualize. It's, big ass board here in the office so everyone can see it and track themselves. So it's really, really fun. And I would encourage, especially in December when that it's a tougher month to get SQLs or opportunities created. You want it to be focused on activities or what's within your area of control, but also make sure that everyone is having as much fun as possible. I want to give a shout out to one of my SDRs, Domingo, who actually came up with the stickers, and she's really, really creative. And a senior SDR that actually is responsible for Spiffs and coming up with ideas, Chris and Emily, who's managing the team that comes up with the Spiffs and making it happen, just like as you see here in this picture.
What I like about the Spiff you're running also, it's you don't just focus on the activity, but also the quality of them, because that's also the behavior you want to drive. So I think it's you had some fun to December, because like you said, December is one of the toughest months of the year. So
exactly. So yeah, I feel like the more fun you're making it, the better outcomes you're getting.
yeah, and also we have a comment from Paul saying, bingo is such a classic Spiff, love it. Great way to get folks comfortable with any initiative you have going on. So yeah, that's exactly the goal. So okay, so that's that for December and November. So now I want to focus more around the strategy aspect of it, the way you think about Spiff during the year. So you are talking about a monthly Spiff, so you already have like a plan for maybe you're working on that for 2025, but what's your thought process around that?
When I'm thinking and designing a Spiff, I'm thinking, what exactly am I trying to achieve, and how often do I need to run them? Like for 2025, we're actually implementing a Spiff that is related to higher quality of pipeline, and that's going to be every single month for one rep. So it's going to be the winner or the challenge is the number of opportunities moving into a certain stage, which is evaluation in our case. So the rep that has the highest number of opportunities in stage 4 or progressed in stage 4 in that month gets that $1,000. So that basically is all time for the entire year to drive more quality to the pipeline. This is one. Then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have monthly spiffs to drive more engagement. In my case, I, as a leader, I care about, do we have fun? Are we having fun? Is this engaging? Can everyone have a buy-in in that? I did have spiffs in my life that I created that sucked and that were not effective at all, and nobody really got excited about that. And when we had the words, I had reactions like, "Oh, I didn't know, thank you." So it felt like a surprise. The spiff should not feel like a surprise ever.
Okay.
If you do, you know that you failed. It should be on the top of everyone's mind all the time. So basically, that's why I'm having like monthly spiffs, and then based on the outcomes that I need to drive, might have weekly spiffs at the end of the month if we're running behind, or even daily spiffs at the end of the month if we're running short. I'm doing a same day meeting, same day opportunity created from the same meeting, obviously, that is worth $100 for every rep that is able to try that meeting, then have that converting the same day. So depending on what I need to do, I play around with spiffs, and I even can create them ad hoc. Like for example, last month, in November, week 3 was the week when I needed to drive the biggest engagement and the biggest activity, because week 4, which was Thanksgiving Day, was a little bit too late. So I need my week 3 to be the biggest one. Your best way to drive engagement is to add a spiff and to focus on an activity. So for week 3, I had the reps with the highest number of activity and talk time would be invited to a fancy lunch at a restaurant here downtown Austin, where we can all go and have some fun and kind of like celebrate. So in this way, I'm figuring out, hey, what exactly am I trying to achieve, and how can I make it attainable and exciting for everyone. So I have reps that, for example, that are getting super excited about the dinner on me or a lunch on me. So that's really, really motivating for them. So I feel like you need to play around with outcomes, knowing a little bit of your team, how exactly they work and they wired and what motivates them, um, and make sure that those spiffs are in the front of all the conversation you're having, daily, weekly reminders. Otherwise, it's just something that it's happening in the background, and again, they're being perceived as oh, surprise! I've just won $500 for something that I didn't even need, like actively drove.
Can you? I saw you. I know you mentioned some spiff that you had in mind didn't work. So could you share like one example that you are really excited about, but didn't work with your team?
So I remember that was probably Q2 or Q3 when I started this role at Upland, and we had a couple of goals around um pipeline, I think, like how the reps that can drive the highest pipeline compared to their expectations. Let's say if a rep for a product is expected to drive, I don't know, like let's say $1 million per quarter. The challenge was the number of, or the rep that has the highest attainment against the pipeline goal. Was really fair, and people were really not very excited about this. But also a challenge that I have, or a mistake that I've done, was that I didn't really remind them consistently, and it was maybe a little bit too long for that. And reps weren't really that excited because it's not really directed to their what's in their control, right? Like the AEs really decide how big is that pipeline, and they're like, well, it's not really my control. If I get a good opportunity, great. If not, so be it. Another fail that we had was also focusing on the whales opportunities. So having a compensation element like 1.5% of closed won revenue from Outbound for opportunities over X amount of dollars. That didn't really work or fly very well, again, because reps didn't feel like it's in their control. And it wasn't fair across the board because some of the reps, again, had opportunities that could never be, let's say, a six-figure deal. Just would be such an exception, and maybe we'll come across it like once or twice a year, or maybe even never. So that would felt demotivating for them. Even if we tried to adjust as much as possible to, hey, like what is a threshold? We looked historically, what are the highest, or what is that 10% of the highest opportunities we had. However, the reps didn't feel like it's something that is very achievable and attainable, and didn't really fly. And I feel like maybe we had like one rep who benefited of that spiff. So definitely lesson to learn. The biggest lesson that I've got is make sure that the spiff is in their control, easy to be tracked, and make sure that you're reinforcing or reminding about this spiff all the time, especially if it's something that you really, really care about and is related to your business outcome. That's, I feel like, it's my toughest one. Something that I was really excited. Something like a little bit silly, but I feel like it really, really worked well, was implementing a spinning wheel. So that was the first spiff that I introduced when I joined Upland. And the intention behind introducing that spiff was to drive activity during power hours. So I think you have also a picture if you want to pull up that
Yes.
screen as well.
Yeah, I'm on it.
That's it. So this
Yeah.
spinning wheel had multiple iteration of how exactly can be used, but the idea behind it is, hey, you can spin the wheel if you book a meeting during specific hours during the day. Again, those were a power hour to encourage them to call during that time, because we know that those are the best time to call in the day. So they had multiple iterations. We had different prizes, varying from like, hey, a good job and a coffee on the manager to a $100 voucher of your choice. That got expensive fairly fast, to be honest, and we needed to kind of like play around with it. Right now, we have this spinning wheel that is related to a lottery ticket, and it was a really, really great hit, especially in the first couple of weeks. So what you see here, so you're booking a meeting, you're spinning the wheel, you get a wheel worth of, let's say, $10, and then you're obviously see if you were lucky. I think we got Dominga here in the picture,
Yeah.
winning $50 probably in the first week. And in general, she had a couple of good lottery tickets, and she earned like dollars. Some of my reps still hope that they gonna get a big prize and potentially take a sabbatical for a year. from the lottery tickets. But they're really fun. I remember the first week, everyone coming gathered together to see if the rep won something. So it was really, really, really fun and really engaging.
Question on that. So just to understand the way you use Spiff, so is it on top of the monthly ones, or how do you separate that?
This spiff, for example, is an all-time spiff. It's running
Okay.
all the time, is related to power hours. So it's always on. Then you're gonna have, or I'm having weekly long, so just running from this Monday till this Friday, and maybe even daily spiff. Like for example, I can come one day, and it's, let's say, last week of the month, and I'm like, okay, cool. Everyone who's booking the meeting today, and is creating an opportunity from that meeting gets $100 on top of everything else that we're doing.
Okay. And now I have follow-up question on Spiff specifically. So, because it sounds like you are running a lot of Spiffs, and how do you prevent Spiff fatigue actually on your team?
It's a good question, and to be honest, I don't know if I figure it out very, very well. Ensuring probably that you don't have too many going on, and it's super clear what exactly is going on. So, for example, the spinning wheel is always on. Everyone knows about that. And then we're gonna have a monthly one that is running for that month. So that's adding the second layer. And then they know that at the end of the month, we might have like a 1-2 spiffs, depending on what we need to drive. That will be either activity-based, team-based, or hey, we need to drive something in the last 3 days of the month. So I think like ensuring that you have clarity into what exactly you're trying to drive and be transparent with the team. Hey, this is what we need to achieve. But also have it super clear in terms of a structure. So we have always one monthly one at all times, and then a one-off if we need to. But I still feel like sometimes it's an overkill, and for some reps, it does not work. Like, for example, I have a team in the UK that they don't really care about the space that we're going on. Like, for some reason, it's not getting them motivated, maybe because they work remote. They're in the UK, but for them, for example, it's having a split that is for them specifically works out so much better than what we're doing in North America. So sometimes I feel like you also need to know your people and
Yeah.
create something that is motivating them in particular.
Yeah, because I think we didn't talk about the price specifically, but also something that motivate them specifically. Because when I had team, I know some people. Yes, you can do you can have prizes on money, and it's fine. Some people are really excited about it, but some they don't care about that. But for example, like you were talking about earlier about an experience, for example, a fancy dinner or a fancy lunch, that motivates them, for example. And like you said, you need to know your people, because some people are driven by money, but others no, they just are driven by experience or maybe something more specific about them.
Exactly. We also have a split that I love, which is a quarterly, so MVP of the quarter, and we have a top performer of the quarter. I'm gonna see if I have here a picture. There we go. I actually do. So I do have this little trophy that we're giving for top performer of the year, and then I'm having another prize for MVP of the quarter. I'm gonna show you in a second. I'm opening the package. This is the one that I'm gonna give for Q4. So basically, it's a ring. I got it from Amazon for like $25 or something. So it says like MVP of the quarter. It's so fun. So MVP player. And everyone is just like basically wearing it for the full quarter. They can put them on the desk, but it's an award that people care about.
Yeah.
Yes, as like human nature, everyone wants to be rewarded and shout out in a public setting. So I think this really works, and they're really, really excited about wearing it, taking pictures, having fun with it. And I feel like that's the entire purpose of that. We already making good, or intending to make good money and give them a chance to make even more through the accelerators. So this, I think, is a good way to balance out that money-driven opportunity or motivation, but also ensuring that you're balancing it out with having fun, making sure that they have a dinner with their boss's boss and the VP of demand gen, and having that FaceTime and visibility. And for some of them, that's really more important than the financial outcome.
I have one last question about space specifically, and then we have like I think 3 or more questions here. So
Yeah.
actually, do you have like a hard stop in 7 minutes or?
I think I do, but I'm probably can take like 4 minutes.
Okay. So let's make it quick. So One question for me. How do you plan your budget for Spiff? Is it on a quarterly basis, or for 2025, do you already have like your budget for Spiffs?
So for the 2025, I only approved the one that is one monthly one for $1,000 for opportunities moving into stage 4. That should be always on approved by the CRO. Other than that, I plan them quarterly. So my process is, hey, like I plan what exactly am I trying to do? What is the achievement? What is the potential flexibility that I need to do in terms of like $100 spiffs? And then I approve that through my manager, the accounting, and somebody in operations. So it's basically on a quarterly basis, lay out the needs, see what we want to drive, what is the outcomes, and then the budget effort into that.
And when you do this specifically for the year and quarterly basis, is it on top of the OT of your team?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious about that too. So let's focus on the question. So we have actually that was Bennett. He was asking, do you have inbound teams and outbound teams? Because we talk about
We
outbound.
have a hybrid. For 2025, we're moving to specifically inbound and specifically outbound. And another change that I'm making for 2025 is actually that the inbound is only going to focus on hand raisers for all products, just a couple of reps, and then non-hand raisers, so content download, the webinar registration, and what have you. It's going to be considered more as an outbound with the intention that we actually can convert those better because we have the skills.
Yeah.
But also to me, um, those leads coming from a content download, for example, it's more showing intent, showing some sort of like intent or interest, but it's not ready to be converted immediately. So those need to be a little bit more nurtured, might need to take a few more steps. So it's not as easy to convert as inbound. So I made that differentiation for 2025 as well.
And so the follow-up question of Bennett on that. So what's your comp plan for inbound? Because if you are moving to just hand raisers, how do you
Compensate for
what's
that.
your comp plan? Yeah.
That's actually super important. That's the reason why we wanted to move to inbound and outbound and hand raisers and non-hand raisers, because we realized with the current model we had, our costs for inbound were super high. Obviously, you have the budget to drive those hand raisers, and on top of that, depending on the quotas and those are changing, the cost basically was super high. So what we're doing right now, we're actually having a quota related to the inbound, and we're paying them directly related to their compensation plan. So for example, if we have a minimum floor, so you need to achieve 75% in order to even unlock the bonus, and then it's directly related to their compensation plan. Let's say if you're making 80% of your number, you're gonna get 80% of your bonus, 100%, 100%, 110%, 110% of your compensation model, and what have you. And we're also implementing a cap on that, because the intention of the inbound rep is really just almost like an admin, if you will, where the intention is work for those inbounds, ensuring that you're developing some skills in terms of discovery, picking up the phone, calling, what have you, and then we want to move them to an outbound. That inbound role is more of a opportunity for us to develop them in the 6 months, take them through the process, ensuring that they can actually cold call and have some sort of like calling skills before moving them to an outbound, and also giving them exposure to a bunch of different products that we're supporting.
So we have a few more questions. So I'm going to do Sandra first because actually I didn't see it. But you started to talk about that. But Sandra, she's asking any Spiff ideas for teams that are distributed across different time zone locations. So you are talking about your team in the UK. They are not super into your Spiff. So any ideas?
Yeah, something that I would do, and I had a lot of fun with, is actually having spiffs related to or team spiffs basically. So if you have, Sandra, if you have different teams across geographies, and let's say they've fairly well distributed, give them a goal, or get them each to set a goal and act as a team, and have competitions within the team. So then the teams that wins, you can even give them all a value of gift card or give them an experience so they can actually go and do something or things like that. But I think having teams distributed and have them competing with each other, I think is a really great way to drive some motivation and competition, healthy competition between them. That's what I would do.
Another question from Nick. And I think if I already started to talk about that on separating inbound versus outbound, but from Nick. So, hi Anastasia, I'm curious about how you approach setting quotas. We have SQR goals for both BD and marketing to encourage better collaboration. So my team handles inbound leads as well. However, we're finding it challenging to ensure the outbound quota can account for potential gaps that marketing might experience through the quarter and vice versa. Any insight on balancing this?
So that's exactly the reason why we move towards inbound and outbound. Because if you have a hybrid motion, the reps can just hit their goals with just inbound and forget about outbound. In my case, we do have very specific quotas for inbound and very specific quotas for outbound in terms of what we need to deliver to the business. So I've done this a couple of times. I learned my mistakes. Hopefully, I'm never moving back to having a hybrid motion where a rep make it super strict, super kind of like different. The way how we set quotas are normally a reverse engineering from our marketing goals. So let's say for the outbound, we need X amount of coverage. Usually it's a 4% coverage with based on our win rate, we do a reverse engineering. I also take another step, and that usually is happening, is made by somebody in operations. And then I take a stab at it as well, and I'm doing a bottom up approach. So basically, what did we do this year? What is realistic? What were the quotas? Where potentially can we add a little bit more? Let's say I cannot double their quota overnight. Something needs to happen for us to say, okay, yeah, like you now need to do double or even 50% more. This year, for example, we're increasing quotas, but which is the benchmark of what we had in 2024, plus a difference of the inbound non-hand raiser reps and what is a conversion rate per each. So what we did, or what I did, I looked at conversion rate for inbound, how much is our goals, at what rate are we normally converting for inbound hand raisers, and how many sales do we normally get. So I did a reverse engineering on that. For non-hand raisers, I did the same. So I looked for every single product. What is our conversion rate from non-hand raisers by different type of inbound non-hand raisers? So content download normally perform the least, but I think like 1 or 2%. Then you have webinars, leads that are converting a little bit better. Then you have events that are converting a little bit better than that. So at every single stage, you would have different type of goals, and you'll just see what is your conversion rate per channel and convert that into sales, or how many meetings are you expecting to have from each. But I would do probably a bottom up and bottom down approach as well, and probably land somewhere in the middle.
And yeah, like you said, and just to wrap up on this, like you said, I think the answer for that is separating inbound and outbound specifically, because for quota it's way more easier. Because I know you can have like a hybrid reps, but it's like you said, some months they can focus more on inbound than outbound, and unfortunately for outbound specifically, you can't rely on that. You need like rigor on that. So
And there's a different profile sometimes as well, and there's a different
also,
effort, and you need to plan to ensure that you have enough pipeline. So sometimes reps will take their foot off the gas if they hit their quota this month, but they're not planning, well, my outbound number needs to be taken care of for next month because I might not have enough inbound. So I think it's just a different mindset that you need to
also.
implement or adopt when you're an inbound or an outbound rep.
Anastasia, thank you so much for being on the live today. I know we are on time and we need to go, but in the description for those who are listening to the recording, I'm going to add your LinkedIn, but also your ATX SDR Leaders also. So people, if they want to join you in Austin, they can.
I'd love that. I'd love to have anyone, if there is anyone from Austin here or living in Austin, I'd love to invite anyone to come and be a part of the happy hour next Thursday.
Thank you so much. And thanks for joining. And for everyone listening, I see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much.
If you find this live with Anastasia useful, you might enjoy my newsletter, Outbound Kitchen. You get a free version every Sunday. Last time I sent a checklist if you are struggling with outbound. And there is a paid version where you receive more in-depth content. I said 5 already, and so for example, I've sent this week the guide to building an enterprise prospecting system, 2 weeks ago, the guide on crafting the ideal outbound SDR Comp Plan that motivates SDRs and drive business results, and also your 24/7 call coach, perfect for you or your team, plus the AI prompt template. The next one will be on how to build your ICP. If you are interested, subscribe using the link in the description.